All right, so I just did a video on why the McConnell rule doesn't apply today. I understand, though, people that are upset, that are liberals, possibly being upset by what they would view, even though it's not the same, as hypocrisy or violating norms. So I want to throw a compromise out to my friends on the left. How about this? Why don't we reverse the rules? I would be willing to say that the Republicans shouldn't nominate this person because it would be a violation of norms. If we get to do what the Democrats have done, how about that? So let's start with this. How about we allow Trump to weaponize his FBI and pay, some Chinese firm to say that Joe Biden and all of his staff likes getting peed on by Chinese agents, and they're secretly trying to sabotage the United States, and then we result in a spying operation of them that lasts for the next 3 years. How about that? And how about in the course of that operation, we investigate them for any potential crime they've committed decades ago? Doesn't matter. And how about we raid their lawyers' offices in the middle of the night? And then when we get process crimes from people connected to Biden as we're spying on him, how about this? How about we tip off Fox News, or even better, OAN, to be outside the residencies when the FBI go and arrest those people? How about that? And how about we entrap people and tell them that they're not allowed to have their lawyers there? And how about we withhold evidence that would exonerate them, like it happened with Flynn and other people? How about all that? Why don't we do that? Why don't we send actual spies like Stephen Halper and, Ezra Turk and other people to go spy on people connected to Trump's campaign? And then how about we have a friendly press, then leak all the details of that to the people in the entire lead up to the election? Does that sound reasonable? And then after the election as well. Right? Sounds fair. That sounds fair, right? Oh, and I know. How about 90% of the press then be on board with Trump? And how about Silicon Valley, too? Why don't we have that happen? And then they'll censor liberals and Democrat opinions from Twitter, from Facebook, and things like that. And they'll weigh in on the election, and they'll put all kinds of fact checks on anything that Joe Biden or the Democrats say. How about that? That seems fair, right? And how about if academia becomes 90% conservative? That sounds fair, right? That sounds like a fair trade. And then they teach our kids, like, the evils of liberals and about how certain groups based on their skin color are racist and things like that, and only the conservative ideology is a positive one, and everyone's a racist that they don't agree with that, right? That sounds fair, right? That sounds like something that could happen. Oh, and how about this? How about we start investigating Joe Biden for impeachment? Heck, even if he wins or any Democrat wins, we start to impeach them on election years for trying to investigate the other side and crimes they commit. How about that? How about we have the entire State Department be adversarial towards the Democrats and start to leak stuff and be on board with the conservative agenda and talk about how, AOC or Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or whoever will be in charge if they win, that they would actually be going against establishment foreign policy. How about we have whistleblowers come out and say that when they try to make decisions that are just reasonable decisions, but they're politically different than what those people at the State Department do, that they have to whistleblow and say that there was some sort of corruption that then results in impeachment investigations? Does that sound fair? That sounds reasonable, right? How about we weaponize the IRS to go after left-wingers? That sounds like a reasonable thing, right? Although that sounds reasonable, that's the tip of the iceberg. That's what we've seen. Oh, I know. How about this? How about we threaten riots, right? Anytime there's something we don't like, we have people go out and riot. The Tea Party will go out and riot. Oh, and even better, at that same time that those riots are going on, we'll tell left-wingers that they have to stay indoors or they're killing grandma because of the disease. How's that sound? Does that sound reasonable? We'll send Republican governors out there to help out, and mayors to help out with the riots. They'll be engaged in the riots. While that they tell all of you left-wingers, you have to stay at home. And if you leave home, we'll get you. We'll lock you up, right? Sounds fair, right? That sounds about right. How about then we, with all the death and destruction that we cause, like these Democratic governors intentionally sending elderly people with COVID into nursing homes to spread that COVID disease there, which kills tens of thousands of elderly people. How about we then have the media unilaterally blame the other side? They'll blame you for that, right? That sounds reasonable. Apologize for the sun. Sorry about that. Right? Does that sound about right? How about we demand that you bail out conservative states and have the media and all the places that control the narrative go on board with that? Oh yeah, the Democrats are horrible. And in fact, we'll withhold aid from people that need it because of the lockdowns, because we're insistent that you have to bail out these conservative states. How about we pack the courts, right? Why don't we do that the next time we get power? We'll all threaten to pack the courts and violate those actual norms. How's that sound? How about we accuse anyone in your party that's nominated or that we don't like of sexual assault and say they're guilty until proven innocent, and we have almost the entirety of the media in Hollywood go on board with that. But then if someone on our side's accused of sexual assault, we'll be silent on it and say, oh, no, it doesn't matter. How's that sound? Does that sound fair? A bunch of people whining like babies say, oh, there's no quiver in the arrow. We could possibly impeach Trump if he tries to push forth a nomination to replace RBG. Oh my goodness, we'll pack the courts. That's what you were doing anyways. We'll burn it all down. That's what you've been doing. You haven't operated in good faith. You've been burning it down. You remember Maxine Waters chased them out of restaurants. Don't make them feel comfortable. You remember Kamala Harris bailing out the rioters. You remember saying that conservatives couldn't go to church and they couldn't go to non-essential jobs while you cheered for hundreds of thousands of people protesting and rioting your causes? Remember that? I do. I remember. That's what you've been doing. Remember when you threatened to pack the courts even before RBG died? Remember when you threatened to add more states to ensure that you have a Democratic majority? Remember where you were for open borders because you wanted more voters? And we know that's the case because anytime anyone says, wait a minute, open borders, that's not a good idea. What are you saying? Oh, you're just trying to win elections. Remember when you want illegals to count on the census when it comes to how many votes each state should get? All of this crap that you've been doing to obtain power. And now you have the nerve to be like, oh my goodness, well, if the Republicans violate these norms, then we'll really be upset. Sorry, you've been cheating and trying to burn down this country for at least 4 years, if not longer. The game is so rigged for your side, it's ridiculous. Every major institution is dominated by your side, with maybe the exception of church, but that's why you're so heavily against it. And even it's becoming more and more left-wing. You engaged in a coup, you weaponized the FBI, you weaponized the EPA, you weaponized the IRS. You threatened to pack the courts, and were serious about it. And you were hypocritical when it came to these lockdowns that you wanted to destroy the economy, but you allowed your supporters to go out there and riot and protest. All of this crap that you've done, and now what? You're threatening more of it if you don't get your way? Thank you for proving in this situation again that you are exactly what I said you are. I don't mean you, the average left-winger, the average Democrat supporter, but this is what the people controlling your party and your ideology have been up to. They've been burning this country down. They've been weaponizing things in this country like the IRS, the FBI, the CIA for so long that now when their threat is, oh, now we're really going to do it. Now we'll really burn it down. Now we'll really pack the courts. Now we'll really weaponize the way these stuff's done. Too late. If you had been reasonable and just conceded the election and said, we'll get them next time, then I could understand these criticisms of like, well, wait a minute. Perhaps the Republicans are doing something that's unprecedented. But that's not what's happening. Even though, as my last video articulated, this is not violating the McConnell rule, even though it's not. If it was, if they were blatantly being hypocrites, I wouldn't care. Never forget what they did to Kavanaugh. Ever. Ever. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen done politically. And many people still cheer for it and say it was a good thing. So when they start talking about normal procedures and giving people a fair shake, they tried to ruin a man over allegations in part brought by Michael Avenatti and Julie Swetnick saying that he facilitated gang rapes that Julie Swetnick as an adult went to and watched children be gang raped at. They took that crap seriously. So now when they're there, when you have all of these people in the left-wing media lecturing you about norms and how outrageous this is, they went right along with the smearing of Kavanaugh. Had no problem smearing Nick Sandmann either from Covington. So how about this? You give us all of that for the next 4 years, then we'll talk about, oh, okay, now next time we won't confirm or put forth a judge if we get the opportunity, if it's an election year. Until then, no one takes you serious. You're the most corrupt, most evil administration that I've seen in my lifetime in this country. You are the establishment. And you're willing to weaponize all these institutions for power and just get upset when it comes back to bite you. So, if you're out there, remember, if people say, oh, this is unfair for McConnell to do this, just remember that list of stuff that I told you that these Democrats have been doing for the past 4 years. So, all right, thanks so much, everyone. I'll be doing some debates tomorrow. I'll let you all know about that later. But thanks so much for listening. And